Now, growing up, Oppenheimer was remembered as being a quote-unquote repulsively good little boy.
I could be better.
Repulsively good? What does that even mean? You know when someone is so good, you know they're conniving.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was a genius. He was truly a genius as a little boy, and he loved learning.
Yeah. Well, later on, he would say that his childhood did not prepare him for the fact that the world was full of cruel and bitter things.
Oh, again, like the aforementioned Michael Jackson.
It gave him, in his words, maybe also like Michael Jackson, no normal way to be a bastard.
That's what he said. And that he just threw himself. He came from a very wealthy family that escaped from. They came from Germany. They moved to the Upper West Side of New York City. They were very well off. He was educated at all the finest schools. He was a very spoiled boy.
He sounds like a bastard to me.
Well, they looked at him as their precious, very bright son. They said immediately, as soon as he showed up in school, I started reading American Prometheus, which is a really great book, but it's fucking too long.
Yeah.
It's 1,200 pages.
That's a lot of pages.
But they didn't know what to do. He literally came out brilliant and immediately was like an other to the other kids because, again, he was born a dweeb.
Yeah, he's a Martian. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, while earlier documentaries about Oppenheimer and the Manhattan Project in general, they gave a more idealized version of Robert Oppenheimer. He's a strapping, sporty man. But
huge cock, heavy balls.
Well, he was one of those guys who's lanky and tall, so you know he actually probably was packed.
Yeah.
50-50 shot.
50-50 shot of like a big gross dick.
I am more inclined to believe 5'7" and under. That's how they've been able to stud. They do have longer ding dongs. Technically, I'm giving you a compliment and your people.
I'm fine.
And then 6'9" and then growing like a potato.
Yeah.
They all like honest tool.
Oh, sure.
5'7" and 6'8" and above.
Oh, yeah.
Well, later biographies relented and pegged Oppenheimer as a frail, frequently ill child who spent most of his time collecting minerals and writing poems.
Do none of you like looking for barium? He really
how do you
was
collect minerals?
obsessed with minerals.
What do you mean? How do you collect? What do you do? Go down to the
It's
goddamn
rocks.
park?
No, it's rocks.
It's just rocks.
He collected rocks.
Jesus,
what
they're
a
minimal.
what a sad childhood.
I'm pretty certain that Dan Aykroyd based a lot of Egon on J. Robert Oppenheimer, because you remember he was just like when he scrapes the gunk off a thing and he says like, "This is for my collection of molds and spores." Like it's the same shit.
That's what he does as a hobby. He collects spores, molds, and fungus.
Yes.
That is better than minerals.
Well, they're pretty rocks. They're
Okay,
very
great.
pretty rocks.
Great.
I hope you guys like basalt.
I'm about to take some now.
But Oppenheimer grew up and he subsequently killed it academically at Harvard, and he went on to become a highly respected yet unhonored theoretical physicist. No Nobel Prize.
Why not?
And that's weird. It's like one of those things where, to me, I imagine the Nobel Prize is this like massive, crazy thing, you know? But it's kind of like how when you work in show business in Los Angeles and you start to see like how the Emmys and all this stuff are like work functions.
Yeah.
In that world, the Nobel Prize is just more like, yeah, well, Jerry got one. They literally are like the way they treat it. They were like,
Right.
it's a thing that you're supposed to get that is supposed to show that you are now like crazy legit.
It's also part of a massive cover up because a lot of people that have wanted are warmongers.
What he did one, he didn't get it.
Yeah, well, think about it this way. Oppenheimer not having a Nobel, it's kind of like Leo never getting an Oscar.
Well, he finally did get it for The Revenant, but he didn't really deserve it for The Revenant. He was better in Wolf.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not. It's more of a lifetime achievement.
It was made more of a thank you, Leo, for your contributions.
Yeah.
Well, by 1942, when Leslie Groves was on the search for a scientist to head the Manhattan Project, Oppenheimer was 38 years old and teaching at UC Berkeley. Now, one fellow professor at UC had a harsh view of Oppenheimer's overall vibe, said that he was always nervous. He moved with an odd, half-jogging, arm-swinging gait.
That's not nervous. That's motivated. You got to get there.
A strange guy.
Yeah, he always cocked his head just a little bit to one side, and one shoulder was always slightly higher than the other.
But then he always got his big hat on. Like, he's got his pork pie hat
good.
because, and I know why now. Have you seen his hair?
Is it wiry?
He looks like Frankenstein's monster.
Well, that's
his
not
hair
so bad.
sticks straight up. I am again, another point to I think Egon is based on J. Robert Oppenheimer because the hair goes straight up.
Well, this professor went on to say that Oppenheimer looked simultaneously like a young Einstein and an overgrown choir boy.
Oh, great. What a combo.
Also had horrible teeth, had a constant cough, chain smoked Chesterfields, and was emaciated because he'd just forget to eat.
Marcus, are you just describing yourself from 2012?
He really did. The only thing that's changed is the cigarettes.
Yeah. Hey, I got my teeth fixed.
I know the teeth. The made up issue in Marcus's life.
He was too nice to make up other things about him.
I don't even. You look great. You look great. Also,
we love it.
Sandra Bullock, that was the worst Oscar ever given out. The Blind Sons.
Oh,
that was horrible.
It
was terrible.
All she did was literally go to a black neighborhood, and people were like, "I can't believe you did that." And it's like, people live there.
Oh yeah.
Well, because he was emaciated, Oppenheimer's body was a great embarrassment to himself.
Yeah.
He was therefore rarely naked.
He was never nude.
Yeah, which surprises me because the Oppenheimer movie just got an R rating for nudity and sexuality.
They're throwing tits in there.
I guess so.
Because what we're going to learn about J. Robert Oppenheimer is like, yeah, he's a nerd, but later on he's going to flourish as a man who fucks and fucks pretty regularly. So he had his, he had several affairs, and I'm pretty certain that's where the sucky comes from in Oppenheimer.
So? Yeah, I want a really graphic sex scene with J. Robert Oppenheimer.
All I want is I want a loop of Cillian Murphy's orgasm face, just him, because he's so scary. He's so scary.
Oh yeah,
I can't imagine him hovering over me and some. I'm sorry, it just scares me.
Yeah.
He's just his icy blue eyes, just going, "I'm going to come." He's weird, like little, very scary.
Little Irish accent. I think Oppenheimer smells like the inside of a Ziploc bag after you take a bologna sandwich out of it.
You will get it. Yeah, he was fairly dapper.
Well, just like Leslie Groves, Oppenheimer was an absolute genius. But as opposed to Groves, Oppenheimer was generally well-liked just so long as he liked you.
Yeah, I was watching the trials of J. Robert Oppenheimer, and the way they all talk about it, being like, yeah, he was like smart or whatever, but he was kind of mean. Like, you see all these like scientists being like, you're just jealous.
Yeah, just jealous. Well, if he didn't like you, if you were talking, he would start doing this weird German accent, like this affected accent, and he would go like, yeah, until you shut up. And then when you shut up, he would destroy your argument before you even made it because he knew exactly what you were going to say.
Well, he's right. He's correct.
Well, that was the thing, is that he often flexed. He said he had a hard time not berating people because he was so much smarter than everybody else, which you see him blossom. Into administrator over the years.
Yeah, I really understand this guy. I understand where he's coming from.
No, I know. Sometimes I'm so awed by Kissel's just sheer intellectual.
The number game.
The force. He just says the word number game, and I know that I don't know what he means,
like,
but he seems to know what he knows.
I know what he means by the number game.
You don't know what I mean.
I think I know what you mean. I think you mean that if you tell people they're stupid often enough, you're going to be right, and you're going to be right sometimes.
Broken clock is right 6 times a day. It's literally what he's saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Good work. Good work, boys.
Now, Oppenheimer grew up apolitical, but around 1936, when it became impossible to ignore that horrible things were happening to Jewish people in Germany, Oppenheimer finally became interested in world events. There was also a much more personal reason why he got into politics. Oppenheimer got horny for a communist.
Yeah, buddy, it ain't hard. It ain't hard because you know the best part about a communist? They always share.
There you go. You really got him good there.
There's a lot of factors here. Like, this is this is one of those like extremely complicated subjects in history that everyone kind of tears apart in and out and again. Oppenheimer as a communist. How did he get into
fucking
it?
a communist.
What did he move? Well, there's a lot. That's what I was saying. If we were writing a book about this subject.
Yes. If we were writing American Prometheus.
We too would have a 200-page sequence where we try to chart how the fact that Oppenheimer got really into the Spanish Civil War, and on the side that was anti-Franco, and a bunch of he grew up with no friends because he was such an alien. Later on, he gets to college. He gets into these sort of like what we now call hippie-ish movements, where at the time which like closely linked to communist ideals and thought patterns.
As opposed to know.
But he literally became like super interested in it because he finally got friends. So on one level, you can kind of see, yes, obviously he cared about politics and he cared about people and he wanted to get involved. And most humanitarian projects at the time were all on the left side versus the right side. But you could also probably say the last podcast version, because we're not writing American Prometheus, is the fact he was trying to fuck. And he was finally amongst a bunch of cool cigarette smoking communist people talking about cool things in the scene.
I believe that would be the human element, would it not?
Absolutely. And through her, Oppenheimer started hanging out with communists. He didn't really accept or really even understand Marx or Engels, but
he went through Das Kapital. That's what they're all saying. Well, the fact that he was the only person in those rooms that read Das Kapital because he was also interested in philosophy and religion. Which comes up time and time again because of his mystical nature, but it was like communism light because he still kind of viewed like, oh, these are things that can help in America and help society, but it was not really about what was going on in Russia at the time.
Hate to break it to him. He's really going to do something anti-communist.
Oh, well, this is but then they immediately put him on trial right after the war. There's like a whole thing. They destroy his whole life.
Yeah, he gets caught up in McCarthyism pretty fucking hard. But back then, in the 1930s, Oppenheimer just thought that commies were a good hang, which they are.
They are.
You just got, you got to leave the party.
Sometimes it
you got to
depends.
leave the party when they actually start talking about communism, because that's when it just starts getting no fun.
And I love our communist listeners. We have a lot of them, but you do tend to lecture.
Yes.
Which I do understand. There's a lot of reading to do.
Yeah,
with capitalism, you just show up and you got your McDonald's. Like as long as you show up every day as a manager of McDonald's, you're fine.
You know, they're not bringing back the Irish milkshake. You know the Irish milkshake?
The Shamrock Shake.
The Shamrock Shake. They haven't done it in years.
I think they said it was racist or something.
No, against the Irish?
It's American to shit green.
Oh, my God.